Hi, I'm Dirk Van Velzen. I'm the founder and executive director of the Prison Scholar Fund. What we do is we help people transition from incarceration to the workforce through education. Now the idea is when you're incarcerated, there should be some kind of path to gainful employment when you get released. And we do that by partnering with great universities. We're building partnerships right now with Arizona State, the University of Washington, and Code Fellows to bring in a coding academy to the prison. And the workforce transition piece looks like we want corporations to sponsor the education on the inside and potentially hire the inmates when they get released. Now that could apply to the prison scholars going through the education program in addition to just regular people once the pipeline is built. Now the impact of education is very important. The Rand Corporation studied education and they decided that through correctional education, the odds of coming back to prison decreased by 43%. And the odds of getting a job when you return increased by 13%. Quantified a different way, $1 invested in correctional education returns $19.76 back to society. And this is data from the Washington State Institute for Public Policy that evaluated victim costs, policing costs, criminal justice costs, and future prison incarceration and construction costs. Now this number is supposedly conservative because it doesn't also add up the value of somebody working, paying taxes, and creating a more welcoming, hospitable environment. Of course, all this is important because America is a global misleader. We incarcerate more people per capita than any nation on earth. We have 5% of the world's population, yet we incarcerate 25% of the world's prisoners. Feeding this is recidivism. Every year, about 700,000 people get out of prison. Probably 68% of them get in trouble again, which means about 450,000 people end up back in prison or some sort of legal trouble. Now that's on a macro level, and looking at it on a micro level, let's talk about me. So when I was incarcerated from 1999 to 2015, I was there for a series of commercial burglaries. And of course, once I got to prison, I decided that's not the place where I wanted to be. But there's not much you can do about that, so I figured I'd just get the Pell Grant and go to school. Well, that's when I found out the Pell Grant was taken away from prisoners back in '94. So it took me a couple of years to talk my dad into it, but luckily for me, I had a dad that could write a check. So through his support, I was able to enroll in paper-based distance education courses through Penn State. And I did really well. Once I got involved in education, I never looked back. I graduated in the upper 1/2 of 1% of my class, and that was compared to all the classmates I was in at Penn State. So I did really great. But the other thing I noticed is there's a lot of people just like me in prison that would do the exact same thing, but they didn't have a dad that could write the check. The opportunity was not available. And I think luck has zero role in effective rehabilitation programs. So in 2006, from prison, I started the Prison Scholar Fund and raised enough money to support 110 people. Now, when I got released in 2015, I ended up at Stanford in a social entrepreneurship program. So just imagine, after 15 years in prison, then poof, you're at Stanford. It's kind of a game changer. And the only reason I got there is because my dad had a checkbook, the opportunity was available, and who says who gets the opportunity? Well, that's what I'm saying. I think everybody should have the opportunity, and that's the program we're building. Because like I said, there's a transition cycle that has to happen, and historically, prison serves three focuses. There's public safety, there's punishment, and there's also rehabilitation. Now, rehabilitation was basically taken away in '94 during the tough on crime days because they figured being tough on prisoners is the same thing as being tough on crime. Actually, increasing educational programs reduces crime, so if you want to be tough on crime, you increase those programs. And so let's talk about our prison scholars for a second. Out of those 110 people we served, 74 got released. Out of the 74, only 3 got in trouble again, giving us a 4% recidivism rate compared to 68% nationally. And that's what we want to work on now. Historically, we funded paper-based distance education courses, and now the courses we want to fund is a hybrid online model that we can drop into any prison in America. And instead of having a couple degrees, ASU has 150 degrees, Washington State University has a lot more. Code Fellows has a great coding program. So if you really look at what we do, we're in the partnership game. We build partnerships with prisons, we build partnerships with universities to bring the programs in, and we build partnerships with people that want to invest in their communities and change lives. So a lot of our money comes from people, comes from foundations, but that means we have to have development staff. So every startup has a hockey stick, and here's our hockey stick. By 2020, we want to serve 800 people in that 1 year, which means we need about $6 million in revenue. Add all those people together, we have about 1,500 people that'll cost about $11 million to serve, but that will also create $227 million in public value. But in order to make that happen, we need rocket fuel. We need to invest in development staff that can raise money from foundations and people, and that's why we're here today. part of the John Legend Unlock Futures Incubator program is super great. And relationships really matter. Like once we got in there, New Profit, it's a really great foundation. They kind of open doors to other foundations. But even though that's really great, our future revenue plan involves individuals, which involves fundraising staff. So we really like to introduce ourselves to you and say, this is what we're doing. If you'd like help us change society in the way where we can help people come out of prison, avoiding homelessness and reincarceration, we'd love to work with you. My email is dirk@prisonscholars.org. And we'd love to talk more or just share our vision, and we have some great stories. Thank you.